Hey guys, it's Barrett with the Campy Camper. So I was perusing through the interwebs one day and I saw a video that was done by Jerry over at I Love RV Life where he built a custom workstation in his RV. I've wanted to do something similar to our camper since that time. I recently told my mom that I'd renovate her bathroom, and I decided that, before I build her vanity and her sink, it's been a little while since I built a cabinet. I think I'll build me a desk for the camper. Give me some good practice, kind of work on my cabinet building, and that's going great. Number one, I'm not done with my mom's bathroom yet. I'm still working on it, but I'll share a couple of pictures of the vanity and stuff that I built in there right here, just, because I'm kind of showing that off a little bit. But hopefully I'll be done with it in the next month or two, but it's probably going to be after this video comes out. So I did this project as really a project that was a surprise for my wife. She does get to work remotely from time to time, and we've been doing a lot longer trips. We've got quite a few long trips scheduled this year. We've already been to New Orleans. We've already been to Washington, D.C. We're going next to northern Louisiana to hang out with some friends. We're going out west to the Badlands again. We're going to Savannah. We're going back to Michigan. So we got a lot of long trips this year. And this desk workstation is really going to help. It really makes it easier for my wife. She actually likes it better than the one she's got at the office. But, it's a pretty nice workstation. So I'm pretty proud of it, and I'm going to show it to you today. So my goal with this desk was to have a great dual screen workstation with a lot of storage that maintains a clean work surface that can be used for multi-purposes. So that way we can use it for when we're preparing dinner and things that we would traditionally use our RV table for, as well as it's a fantastic desk and workstation. We didn't use our table a whole lot. The biggest thing that we used our table for was a workstation or to prep food and stuff like that. And it didn't feel right for us. We wanted something where we could do more productive stuff at. If we want to cut some food up and stuff, we can still use the desk for that. Just have more of a surface there than we had with the table anyway. So I started this project with the available space that I have. I needed to leave enough space for the portable air conditioner that we use as well, because it sits in the corner of the slide over there. And the only part that I was nervous about during the planning phase was the diameter of my office chair, and then it would sit all the way on the slide. The other concern that did cross my mind was the extra weight. If I made a custom wooden desk, it would obviously be a little bit more weight on the slide than the table and chairs. So I called my friend Steve over at Shelburne RV. By the way, check his channel out. He's got a channel there that shows you kind of the everyday life of an RV tech and kind of some of the hassles and stuff he has at, owning an ORV shop. And it's great content. It's good to follow. Shows you a bunch of stuff that people do that just kind of mess their own stuff up, and they have to go in and fix it, or water intrusion, rebuild slides. They do all that stuff. So just kind of head over there and follow his channel too, because I think that you'll really like it. We work together a lot on a lot of different projects, and he's a real good friend of mine. So anyway, I called Steve and I asked him what he thought about adding the weight of a custom built desk into the slide. And he had a pretty simple answer. He said, it's a lot less weight than a lot of the fridges and kitchens that some people assemble in the slides. And so, thought, well, that sounds fair. So that's kind of how I made the deciding point on that. And I kind of went along with that as, it's a lot less weight than a refrigerator, so I think it'll be okay. So after that, I decided to start planning my project out. I wanted to keep the storage capability that was in Jerry's desk. So I started with the same basic design. I used SketchUp to plan out my project. And there's this guy on YouTube, his name's Jay Bates. He's got a great channel with a lot of tutorial videos on how to use SketchUp to design projects. A lot of woodworkers use this to design 3D models because it actually helps you very accurately know how much materials you need. And with this project, I noticed that it helped me keep my waste to a minimum. I actually changed my original plan so that I only had a small sliver of waste out of a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood. But truth be known, I forgot that I also needed one small area of 3/4 inch plywood somewhere else, so I did have to buy another sheet. But I was really impressed at first because this picture is the only waste that I had out of this 3/4 inch sheet of plywood. Now obviously after I used a new sheet of plywood, I had the rest of it to use on a different project, but you know, it is what it is sometimes. And the piece that I had to have was actually for the top drawer. It was the bottom of the top drawer because I have a little surprise in there that basically hides a small coffee table in my desk. That way when you're sitting on the couch and you're lounging back, you got somewhere to put your drinks and stuff. It's great. I love this thing. Anyway, so I did get a second piece of plywood just for that. So the desk is mostly made out of sanded plywood. I started ripping the pieces with a Craig AccuCut. I will say, you know, the Craig AccuCut helped a little bit. I thought it was pretty helpful. When I started working on my mom's vanity that I was talking about, I did accidentally cut into the AccuCut a little bit. This caused me to kind of readdress my decisions here, and I bought a full-fledged like Makita track saw. I only used that track saw one time so far. I was cutting out the hole for the bathroom sink and the vanity that I'm making, and I will say that it's hands down much better. It's a lot more expensive than the AccuCut, but I really love the track saw, and I should have bought one a long time ago. But I did decide to give the AccuCut a try because, you know, I love a lot of Craig's tools, and you'll see them a whole lot in this video. The AccuCut's like the poor man's track saw. You know, I'll say it's probably the most negative reviewed Craig tool out there though, but it did work well before I messed it up. I used a couple of work supports in my jaw horse to make a really quick workout of cutting the large sheets of plywood up, and then I used the table saw to make the cuts to the more appropriately sized pieces. After I got the plywood pieces cut into appropriate sizes, I used the Craig jig to place pocket screws in the edges that would not be visible on the desk. For those of you that don't know what pocket screws are, the Craig jig, that is a great tool, and these holes actually hold pocket screws that connect the desk together, and basically they are like a clamp that holds the wood glue while it dries. And I love the Craig system. I love pocket screws, and everything I make now furniture wise I use them in. You know, that whole thing about the screw holding the glue while it dries, that's a very important statement because I didn't know this before I started doing stuff like this, but wood glue is actually stronger than the screws once it cures very well. So I assembled the body of the desk, but the trick is that I had to do this inside the camper because the desk was too big to fit in the door. So that caused me a lot of issues, and I was needing space and I was being messy, but we made it happen. But that's kind of, you know, I would have had more footage, but it was it was a horrible mess in here. I used poplar as edge banding around the plywood that formed the top of the desk. However, the banding was being held on with pocket screws that could be seen from the underside of the desk when it's lifted up. So I did fill those in with caps, cut them off flush with the oscillating saw, and that way when I've stained everything, you know, you can still see that there's something there, but it blends in a lot better than the holes. I also decided to add a pencil holder in the back part of the desktop where it's stationary before the hinges there. So I actually used a couple of pencil holders that I ordered off of Amazon. I actually got some square ones because I thought, oh, they'll be easier to fit and get a good cutout. But it didn't look as clean as I wanted it to, so I did end up putting a little bit of trim around it because trim is the carpenter's best friend. After I got the edge banding around the desk, then I used poplar to make the face frame. And then, you know, the face frame is the actual front of the desk, and this is the part that a lot of people do use the Craig screws and stuff for, and it's what it's really known for. I actually, you know, made the frame a lot smaller than usual just to try to maximize the size of the drawers and everything here. And so, you know, a lot of the pieces that actually go between the drawers are a lot smaller than what you would typically see. At this point, I decided to mock up the laptop holder and the dual screens that I'd ordered from Amazon. By the way, I'm going to have links to everything that I've ordered down in the description here. And so if you're interested in building something like this or just parts of it, you can find the links down there and you can order everything that you want to. I just wanted to see how it all fit together and kind of see what the finished look was going to be like that I was going for. Now, you know, my wife, who I did let in on the surprise, stated that she wanted the body of the desk painted, but I suggested that we stain the top. So I decided to put a coat of stain on the top as well as inside the storage bay under the top. And so, you know, that keeps that whole storage area and everything. It's a darker color, it's a darker stain, it's a walnut stain. I really liked it. While the stain was drying, I added some base molding around the desk as well. And I also added an opening for an outlet in the side of the desk that can be accessed by sitting in the theater seating. And so that way you have 110 power there, as well as USB plugs in the outlet whenever you need them. I then primed the desk and let it dry. After a little bit of sanding, I added a coat of paint. And during this process, I added a few coats of polyurethane to the stained portion of the top of the desk. After the polyurethane dried, I mounted the monitors back to the top of the desk, and then I used the table saw to make some drawers out of 1/2-inch plywood. And I actually used a new Kreg jig, the Kreg Micro Jig, which is a little bit smaller than the original version, and it's supposed to be optimized for 1/2-inch material. It works very well making these drawers. This seemed to be a very strong bond whenever I put the sides of the drawers together out of the 1/2-inch plywood, and then I used a 1/4-inch plywood for the bottom of the drawers. Now, one thing to remember, if you make drawers out of pocket screws, you want those pocket screws to be on the very front of the drawer because you're going to have a face frame on there, and you want it to be on the very back of the drawer, so that way when you open the drawer you don't see any of the pocket screws anywhere. I then used some poplar and I cut some false fronts to the drawers that I would screw from the inside of the drawer on there. And with these, I did go around it with a router with just an edge over bit, just to put a little bit of a sanded edge along the sides. And I think it turned out very nice. I stained the drawers and I painted the front to match the rest of the desk. Then I used the Kreg drawer jig mount to mount the slides and drawers. However, because the way that I made the face frame is, you know, it didn't maintain the proper angle, so that was a little bit wonky. And that's another one of those Kreg things. I've used it a couple of times now that holds the drawer slides on and helps you mount them where they're all level and stuff. And I hadn't had the best luck out of that one, but the Kreg jig, I give it 2 thumbs up. You know, truthfully, the most irritating part about this build was installing the drawer slides, which drawer slides can just be a pain in the butt, especially if you don't have everything exactly square. So after this, I added a power strip to the back of the desk. I actually screwed that to the wall of the slide, and that powers all the items in the desk. Even the outlet that's on the side of the desk, I just wired it into a plug to plug into that surge protector there in that power strip. I did order some short extension cords as well. That way the big blocky, you know, plugs, they don't take up a lot of space on that outlet strip. And that way the 3 6-inch cords, they can, you know, you can fan that stuff out a little bit and make it work a little bit better. So I did the laptop dock and all the HDMI cords and everything, and I ran those through the top of the desk. In the very back, I put a 2-inch hole with a plastic grommet, and there's one on the side of the desk too. And the one on the side of the desk is where the lightning cable goes from the laptop dock to the laptop itself to give it power and all that stuff. I didn't have very good luck with the laptop dock supplying the power through the lightning cable. And so I actually do have, you know, a DC brick in there for a laptop because the dock seemed to do everything else well. But I was having a hard time with the pass-through power, so I just gave up on that one. So then I added the hardware for the drawers and everything, but I did go back and do a final paint touch-up, so I had to take all those off one more time and just, you know, paint everything again, get one good last coat of paint on there. And I also added some shelf liner to that storage area at the top. And I used actually some toolbox liner. It wasn't quite deep enough to go all the way from the front to the back. I was trying to do something that would cushion the laptop and stuff in there a little bit. I know Jerry used some foam or rubber, I think it was foam that was, you know, 1/2 inch thick or something. I didn't quite go that protective, but I felt like just a little bit of protection there would help. Just a little bit of padding. So far, we're more than happy with the desk. The seat does fit up in the slide, but truthfully, there's a wheel or two hanging down on the floor a lot of times, and I wasn't the happiest about that. But you know, I'll take it because it's a lot more comfortable than what it was. If you sit in it just right and mess with it for a minute, you can get it all the way up on the slide, but maybe I just gotta lose a little bit more weight too, you know. Initially I thought maybe I add like a spacer to the floor behind the slide just to kind of make everything balanced, but it's really not that noticeable as long as you're facing forward in the chair. I always like to recline a little bit anyway, so it's really not that bad. As far as the cost of this project, the pieces added up to be a pretty large sum, including the electronic components as well as the materials. The cost added up to over $1,000. However, I think it was worth it just for the comfort and productivity that this piece of custom furniture is going to help with our travels. Not to mention that there's just something to building something with your own bare hands that you just can't get by, you know, ordering something in a box and putting it together and having it sit there. But you know, that's kind of my thing. I like to do some woodworking, so I really liked it. We've not had any problems out of it, hardly. You know, the problem that I have had, I've had a couple of, you know, mediocre problems. One was I had a lot of stuff plugged into that power outlet, the surge protector there, and I had that plugged into the same outlet as the portable air conditioner, and I was having some issues with the power, like charging the computer and stuff, and I think it was because that, you know, the desk and everything plus the portable AC was too much for the 15 amp circuit at the power pedestal. And so we are right now plugging it into the main RV. However, I do have plans to actually run a separate power cord over there and install it on a breaker by itself to kind of fix that issue. The other issue that we had when we went to Louisiana, those Louisiana roads, buddy, if you ever drove on them, you know what I'm talking about. But the old desk did the bouncy bounce, and it was, I thought, you know, it's heavy enough. I don't think we need to like anchor it down or anything. That thing moved a foot. I did, you know, while we were in Louisiana, I did buy some anchors, and I have a few on the floor and I have a few on the back, and I had no issues with it moving since then. Occasionally one of the arms of the monitors kind of moves a little bit, swings in a little bit, but no big issues there. Hadn't had any issues with the monitors or anything with the movement, and everything's been great. So all in all, I really do love this project. It's one of my favorite projects so far. And like I say, if you're wanting to look at any specific part of this or any of the hardware, I'm going to have links down in the description.
Do not forget to hit that subscribe button.